So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today, students, for the webinar by the University of British Columbia. This is one of the many series of sessions that the Office of International Affairs is organizing so that all of you have understanding of applying to several universities internationally. You get exposure to different countries, different institutions. The University of British Columbia is one of the leading institutions in Canada and in the world, among the top 20 universities in the world. And we're very delighted to have Shane Moore join us from the University of British Columbia to talk about the various master's and PhD options and to help you understand how you should choose from among different programs offered at UBC. What are some of the ways in which you can put forward a strong application? And Shane's been very kind to even talk about the Canadian higher education system in general. So without further ado, Shane, I would like to let you take over and talk our students through what you have for us today. Thank you so much.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks very much for the invite, and hi everybody. Nice to see you all. So yeah, as we were just saying, I'm going to first talk about graduate study in Canada, differences between undergrad and grad study. I'm going to talk about different graduate program options and also talk about how you can apply to grad school. So my information is obviously focused more on UBC because that's where I'm based, but I'm keeping the advice very general. So this advice could really apply to most universities in North America, and I hope it will be useful to you. We'll also have time for questions at the end. So my presentation will be sort of 20-25 minutes, and then we can do your questions after that. So happy to answer any questions that you have. I should explain as well that, yeah, my role at UBC, I work at the Faculty of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies, and my role is Marketing and Recruitment Manager. So I promote UBC globally through a variety of ways, and I also provide application advice to prospective students. So those are the two main elements of my role at UBC. I know many of you are thinking about applying to the best universities. You're looking to apply to strong, highly ranked universities. And when you're looking at Canada for your graduate studies, I'd encourage you to consider the U15 universities. And U15 is basically a group of 15 leading universities in Canada. And they are amongst the highest ranked universities, but also the ones that are doing the most research. So they have more graduate students, they have a higher research income. And these universities are based across the country. You can see a map here detailing the U15 universities, and UBC is right on the far left of the screen here over in British Columbia. So most of the U15 are located in Ontario, which is over here, but also there's several in Western Canada as well, including UBC. If you're thinking about going to grad school, the advice that I always give to people at the beginning of the journey is to really think about your motivations. So going to grad school can be really challenging. It can be difficult. It can be very, very hard work, especially if you move to a new country, to a new city. It can be a big challenge, one of the biggest challenges that you'll go through in your life. So making sure that you understand your motivation at the beginning of the journey is really important. So make sure that you're really fascinated by the field that you're interested in. It's important that you have clear goals. You know, what qualifications do you want to get? What expertise do you want to get? How will the graduate degree help you achieve your goals and your experience that you need to move forward with an academic career or with a professional career? So do you know your reasons for applying to graduate school? And if you really understand and know your reasons, that will be helpful to you during the application, particularly when you're writing your statement of interest or at the interview stage if you have an interview. Most of you will be aware of this already, but graduate school is very different from and you can see some of the differences here on each side of the slide. really at the graduate level, you go into any subject area much more deeply. You become an analyzer, even a creator of new knowledge. There's much more autonomy and self-direction at the graduate level. And at the graduate level, whichever program you join, you really are stepping into the field. So when you're an undergraduate, you might be outside of the field looking in. But when you're a graduate student, you become an expert, you step into the field that you're interested in. And so just keep these ideas in mind, and understand that grad school is going to be very different than your undergrad experience. Another thing you should consider if you're thinking about graduate school is the type of program that you want to study on. So not all graduate programs are the same. In fact, they can be very different. At UBC, broadly speaking, there's two main types of graduate program. So they would be research-focused or research-based programs, as well as course-based or professional programs. So these are the two main types. And you can see some of the characteristics of each type of program here on the screen. So a research-focused degree is exactly that. You will do in-depth research. You will be required to write a thesis, a 20,000 word dissertation. At a PhD level, it would be a 70,000 word dissertation or similar. There are coursework elements in a research-focused degree, normally at the beginning of the program, and then you move into the research segment. And you complete a research-focused degree when you've done all of the coursework as well as completed your thesis. There's some flexibility in the program length of a research-focused degree. And that really just depends on how your research is going and how long it takes for you to finish your thesis. All PhD programs are research focused. So if you're thinking about doing a PhD in the future, a research focused, it will be a research focused PhD. That's just the nature of the degree. At the master's level, it's different. So at the master's level, many of our programs are research focused and some of them are course based or professional programs. If you're interested in doing a PhD, the pathway in Canada, the normal pathway if you're studying in Canada, is to do a master's degree first. So you would apply to a master's degree, you would complete that degree, or you would transition from your master's degree into a PhD. So I know in Europe and in the US, it's easier to go straight into a PhD program. In Canada, that is much less common. In Canada, the normal pathway is to do a master's degree and then you do a PhD afterwards. You can see on the right-hand side some of the characteristics of a course-based or professional program. So an example of a course-based or professional program would be something like an MBA. So an MBA is a professional degree. You would move through in a cohort. You complete the program once you've done all of the required coursework and completed all of the modules. In an MBA program, typically you would not do a research project, so you would not write a thesis. There may be elements of research during such a program, but you would not do an in-depth research project. So when you're doing your research, understand the type of program that you're interested in, understand the type of program that you're applying to, because that will make the application quite different and the things that you need to do very different in the process. Okay. I'm going to talk more about the application in a moment, and I'm going to give you some advice on how to apply. But before I do that, I just want to take a couple of minutes to talk about UBC and why you should consider studying at UBC. There's lots of great reasons to study at UBC, but some of the main reasons or some of the highlights are as follows. I think the main reason is the research. So UBC is a top 40 research university, so one of the top 40 universities in the world. It's often ranked as one of the top 20 public universities in the world. So it's a real research powerhouse. We have research in a wide variety of areas. And in certain areas, such as in industry, innovation, and infrastructure, we're rated as #1 in the world. We're rated as #3 in the world around climate action. There's certain areas at UBC where we are particularly strong. But generally, UBC is one of the top research universities in the world. Here's some numbers to illustrate that. You can see the numbers of this is the research funding that we're receiving each year. This number tends to go up each year. And that research funding, which comes from government, from industry, is funneled into projects and other things such as facilities. This generates companies, it generates patents, but ultimately it generates new knowledge. So what research does is it generates new knowledge. It gives us more. It takes us forward. So we do research into a wide variety of different areas, everything from advanced materials to brain health to culture and diversity, digital technologies, the environment, heart and lung, HIV and AIDS research. There's so many different areas of research happening at UBC, and UBC is a very sort of globally connected institution in that sense. We have a lot of international faculty members, a lot of international students, and also a lot of international relationships with universities around the world. We're also blessed to be in a really great location. So UBC is located on 400 hectares of land. So it's the equivalent of about 750 football fields. It's a really beautiful campus that we have. This is Main Mall, which is the main sort of pathway through campus. And at UBC, you're always very close to the ocean, close to the mountains. So it's a really, really great place to live and to learn. You can see our location on the green circle on the far left. So UBC Vancouver is located next to the city of Vancouver on the west coast of Canada. So it's not too far away from Seattle. You can fly to San Francisco to Los Angeles in a couple of hours. So it's close to other West Coast cities. UBC also has a second campus based in Kelowna, and that's called UBC Okanagan. And it's separate. So it has a separate graduate school. But what I'll be talking today about is UBC Vancouver. But do note that when you're doing your research about UBC, that we do have two campuses. We have UBC Vancouver as well as UBC Okanagan, which is in Kelowna. They're not close by. So Kelowna is about 4 hours drive away, 4 or 5 hours drive away from Vancouver. But do keep that in mind when you're looking at UBC. Another great reason to study at UBC is the facilities that we have. So over the last 10 years or so, we've invested over $1.5 billion in our facilities. This is the Javed Mofanjian Center for Brain Health, which was opened a couple of years ago. This is where research into the brain is done, and some really amazing scientists are working in this facility. This is the Kerner Library. So the Kerner Library is one of, I think, 12 or 13 libraries on campus or across the UBC system. So we have a wide variety of libraries and resources. At UBC Vancouver, we even have our own farm. So this is on campus. We have the UBC farm. The farm is used for research as well. But it's also a place where you can buy food. So food, we have a weekly farmers market at the farm as well. So the facilities at UBC are pretty amazing. Another great reason to consider UBC is just really our people. We have around 37% of our students are from outside of Canada, and they come from a huge number of different countries. And we have around 3,600 doctoral students and around 7,000 master's students at UBC at the moment. So when you join UBC, you'll become part of a really dynamic community of students and researchers. We also have a really wide variety of programs. So we have over 300 different graduate program options across, our faculties. You can see some of those stats here. Just a quick summary of those statistics in terms of the numbers of students that we have, the numbers of international students that we have, and also you can see the numbers of international students at the master's and the doctoral level. We can see almost 50% of our doctoral students are from outside of Canada. And lots of different program options for you to explore at UBC. Let me talk about the application and the admission now. So this advice, as I mentioned, it's focused more on UBC, but is really very general. So it can be applicable to any grad school application in North America, really. the advice that we give when you're thinking about grad school is to really think about the process. So it's not a good idea just to go straight to the application. It's really important to give yourself time to explore. So explore all of the different program options at UBC, but also at other universities. So really do that research, look widely, look at all of the different opportunities that are out there for you. See what's possible. Look at a variety of different universities and see which program or programs will be right for you. Once you have a short list of programs, it's really important that you give yourself time to review the application requirements. So at the grad school level, application requirements are different for each program. So even if you're applying to 2 programs within the same department at the same university, the admissions requirements and the process could be different. So it's important to note that the application decisions are made at the program level. They're not made by the institution, and that the individual programs make admissions decision, but they also set the requirements and set the process. So it's important that you understand that and understand exactly what is required for each program that you apply to. You need to give yourself time to prepare, to pull your documents together, to write your statement of interest. You may even need time to gain the right experience to apply to a certain program. You need to give yourself time to reach out as well. You'll need to reach out to your referees. You may also need to reach out to a supervisor. So a supervisor is a faculty member who will supervise you during a research-based master's or PhD program. So you might need to spend time finding a faculty member to supervise you. There's lots of steps to take before you get to the application stage. When you do get to the application stage at UBC, you'll need to pay an application fee, which for international students is $168.25. That's Canadian dollars. And you would need to apply for each program that you apply to. So if you apply to 2 programs at UBC, you will need to pay the application fee twice. There's a number of application components that you need to be aware of. But broadly speaking, the application is, of course, online. You would pay the application fee online. At UBC, you can actually go into the application. You can start the application. You only pay the application fee when you're ready to submit. We will need transcripts from all of your previous study. So we'll need your transcripts from your current degree. If you went to another university previously, even just for 6 months, even just for 1 semester, we'll need to see your transcripts. When you apply, you'll need to scan and upload copies of your transcripts. And if we make you an offer of admission, we will then reach out to your university and ask them to send us the official transcripts from them directly. You can read more about that process on the website, but all you need to know at the application stage really is that you'll need to have your grades and your transcripts ready. If you haven't completed your degree yet, that's okay. But everything you have so far, you'll need to upload that to the system. The 3 big parts of the application that you can influence, or you have the most influence on, are the statement of interest, the reference letter, and also reaching out to and getting support from a prospective supervisor. I'll talk more about those three elements in a moment. You may be required to take an English language test. You need to do this if the language of study for your degree was not English. So if you completed your degree and the primary language of instruction at your institution was not English, then you would need to take the English language test. GRE and GMAT scores are required for some programs, but not many programs at UBC require this. Sometimes you'll be asked for samples of your work. Other application components you may be asked for are things like creative work portfolios. If you're applying to a creative program, you'll very likely be asked for your CV, your resume. Sometimes programs will ask you for a writing sample as well. Again, really important that you understand the admissions requirements for the program that you're applying to, and make sure you give yourself time to put together all of these components. At UBC, the best place to understand the requirements is our graduate degree programs page, which you can find under the prospective student section. You can see the link at the bottom of the page, and I can share this link with you in the chat later on. If you go to this page, you'll see a list of all of our programs. You can search by keyword. And for each program, you will see much more information about the program, but also in there, you'll see the academic requirements and the applications procedure. At UBC, we have minimum academic requirements. So these are the minimum academic requirements that all applicants are required to meet. You can see at the bottom there the application requirements if you're applying from a Canadian or a US institution. If you're applying from an Indian institution, as I presume you will be, you can see these are at the top here. These are the requirements if you're applying to a master's program, and at the bottom, these are requirements if you're applying to a PhD program. There's more information on our website. You can see the link here, which I can share with you afterwards. But please read these requirements. Please understand these requirements on our website before you apply. By doing so, you'll help yourself and save yourself a lot of time. At UBC, we have the minimum academic requirements, but also as well as that, there will be program requirements. So even if you meet the minimum academic requirements, you're not guaranteed to gain admission, but certainly if you meet the minimum requirements, that's excellent. There may be some additional program requirements, and all of our applications for all of our programs, it is a competitive process. But if you're applying to top universities, you should expect that there will be competition. There will be other applicants, and the university and the program will make decisions based on a number of different factors. One of the factors that they will consider and a key element of the application is the statement of interest. The statement of interest is a brief statement of your academic and or your professional goals and how these align with your graduate program. So some of the things that you'll do in your statement of interest is, you may write about your potential research areas or questions, or you may write about your professional aims and the value that you'll bring to the class. You will work to demonstrate clear understanding of the field that you want to step into. You'll write with clarity. You can't have spelling mistakes, so make sure that you avoid those. And when you're writing the statement of interest, it's really important to be specific, to establish the fit for the program. And some of the tips that I would suggest when you're writing your statement of interest is make sure that you have other people review it. So if you can share it with a colleague, if you know any graduate students, if you have any friends, if any professors could read it for you, have other people read your statement of interest, gain their feedback, and then you will write several iterations. So you'll write several iterations and get your statement as strong as it can be. Stay within the word count, follow the guidelines, but you will be able to see your grades, and we'll be able to see that you're smart very ahead of your time and make sure your statement of interest is as strong as possible. Another key element of the application is the references. So you'll be required to submit 3 references for the grad school application at UBC, and 3 references is quite common for most grad school applications. So really think carefully about who to ask. You should ask well in advance and make sure that you provide your referees with supporting information. So that can look like, that can be your CV, it could be your statement of interest. You could even give them kind of guidance on why you think you will be a good grad school student, and sort of help them and guide them in writing a letter. If you're applying to a research-based program, a research-focused program, we prefer to see academic references. So you should be connecting with your professors now, maybe lining some of them up, asking some of them if they can be your referees later. It's really important to have some strong references, and the work of building relationships and connecting with your potential referees, that can start now. So you should have in mind some people who will be able to write your reference. An academic reference or a professional reference can be accepted as well. Okay. Another important step that you may need to take in the grad school application is to reach out to a potential supervisor. A supervisor is a faculty member who will supervise your research at graduate school. Not all programs require this step, only some of them do. If you are interested in applying to a research-focused program, it's more likely that you will need to complete this step, but it's not guaranteed. You should check the admissions requirements for the program that you're interested in to see if you need to reach out to a supervisor. If you do need to reach out to a supervisor, then the emphasis is on you to do your research and find a faculty member or faculty members that you would like to supervise your research within the program, within the department that you're applying to. So find faculty members that you're interested in reaching out to, and you can reach out to them by email. And basically what you will do is send them a short email explaining who you are, explaining your research interests, explaining why you want to work with them, and also asking them if they are taking on graduate students at the moment. And in a couple of minutes, actually during the Q&A, if this is something you're interested in, I can show you how to search for faculty members, search for supervisors at UBC. So you can do this process online, and I can show you how to do that in a moment.
I think that'll be a great idea, Shane. I think the students will love it.
Okay, we'll do that in a minute. I'll promise you I'll show you how to do that on our website. Just a couple more slides, and then we can do Q&A. Yeah, application deadlines are really important. You know, I hope I've stressed the importance of planning, of giving yourself time to work through the application. So figure out the application dates and work backwards and give yourself time to complete everything. It's not advantageous to apply on the deadline. You know, if you can apply earlier, it's better for you and it's better for the program. Many programs will actually consider applications on a rolling basis. So if you applied, you know, a month early before the deadline, it's very likely that your application will be reviewed before people who applied right at the deadline. It's okay to apply at the deadline, of course, but if you can apply earlier, that's better. Deadlines vary by program, so you need to check with the program. But at UBC, the application, well, at UBC, we have 4 start dates. We can start in September, January, May, or July. But a vast majority of our programs begin in September. So only a very small number of students begin in January, May, or July. And most of them start in September. So applications are open now for September 2024 start. And, you know, you just need to check those deadlines. And then the decisions will be given out in February and March of 2024. So if you hope to start in September 2024, you should know if you've been accepted by February or March of next year. I've shared this a PDF of my slides already, so I know they'll be shared with you. And you can these are some really useful links that I've mentioned already. We have an application guide. Actually, I haven't mentioned that, but we have an application guide on our website. So if you go to that page, you can download a 37-page ebook which runs through the application process. It's very general, so it could be applicable to any grad school. The graduate degree programs page is where you can search all of our programs and understand the admissions requirements. We also do a large number of information sessions. So these may be happening quite late in the evening, your time, but if you can join them, there's some great sessions that we have that are similar to this, but we go into more detail about different aspects of the application. Okay, so let's move into the Q&A now, and maybe what I will do is just stop sharing for a moment, or I'll end this presentation actually, and I'll share my browser instead. Just one moment. Okay, let's do some questions. I don't know how we should do this. Maybe Anubhuti, you could help manage the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? So so all of our wonderful students, why don't you please raise your hands using the functions below, or you could even type your questions actually in the chat box, and we'll keep a track of them, and Shane will respond to them.
Maybe while you're writing your questions or thinking about your questions, I think we have a question. Someone's raised their hand here.
Okay, I mean, you can, I mean, guys, you can, I think Riddhi, you've raised your hand, Riddhi. So why don't you unmute yourself and one at a time, you guys could just ask your
Yeah.
questions.
So hi sir. I wanted to ask you that I graduate 2025. I am in my third year right now. So I would be planning to pursue my masters in MSc in finance. So I
Mhm.
actually wanted to ask you that when we do apply, what you asked us to submit our CV or any letter of recommendations that we have from our professors or whatever that we can submit. So, for a master student who wants to pursue uh, finance, what kind of internships or what kind of stuff do you look at in our CV?
Oh, great question. Yeah. What we look at is different for each program. So what each program will have is they'll have what's called an admissions committee. And an admissions committee is a group of faculty and staff who will review your application and they'll discuss it and then they'll make a final decision. But certainly if we were looking at your CV, at your resume, we would want to see that you had the background that would support you in the program. So have you studied finance before? Have you been part of any finance clubs? Have you gone to any conferences? Have you done things that indicate your interest in finance? That's one area. I think generally though, we're looking to understand who you are as well. So we would definitely be looking for the experiences that you had, like you'd had. So for example, what work experiences have you had? What have you learned from those? Have you done any volunteering? So volunteering is really valuable on there. So yeah, I think in the CV resume, there isn't sort of a specific set of things that we're looking for, but we're really looking to see, if you're a good fit for the program, if there's a good alignment between your previous experience um, and the program, and ultimately we're looking for you to bring something to the program. So what will you bring? So if you've got lots of great experiences on your CV that you can bring to the program, that will be great. And just one more thing as well, like obviously the CV is a great thing as part of the application, but also make sure that the statement of interest really explains and showcases some of your experience. So in your CV, it might list out your experiences, but then in your statement of interest, you might write about those in a bit more detail and give us more detail about what you actually did. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was really insightful.
Also, there's a question that Kavyan and Manushi are both asking, and I think,
Yeah.
no, actually, Kavyan and Shubh about scholarships and, funding at the master's level. And also, I mean, on the same thread, Shane, if you could also talk about PhD funding and how does that work in Canada and specifically at UBC?
Great. Yeah, great questions. Let's begin with the PhD funding. Okay. So the research universities, like the U15 universities that I mentioned at the beginning, they'll all have some form of PhD funding. And you should expect PhD funding for your PhD in Canada. So at UBC, we have a minimum funding guarantee. So what that means is for the first 4 years of your PhD, the absolute minimum that we guarantee to fund you is 22,000 Canadian dollars per year. So that would be the minimum. But actually, the average amount of funding that students receive for their PhD at the moment is normally around 34,000 Canadian dollars per year for the first 4 years. If your PhD takes longer than 4 years, the funding, it normally continues, but it might be slightly different. It may be less, or it may be contingent on other things. But generally, we have a guaranteed funding model. So your PhD at UBC would definitely be funded. The amount of funding that you get is really dependent on the program that you apply to. And it's different depending on the department and the program. That's because different programs and different departments get funding from different sources. So some programs might get, for example, in the sciences, they might get grants, they might get funding from external sources, from industry. But what the faculty members, what the professors would do would be to bring that funding together and put together a funding package for each of their PhD students. So, for example, if you got into a PhD in biology, they may put together a funding package for you, and they'll be able to tell you what that funding package is when they make you an offer of admission. So if you get an offer of admission, it will tell you the amount of funding that you would get in the first year and an indication of what you would get in future years as well. To better understand the funding amounts, again, if you can see my screen, if you go to the graduate degree programs page, and let's just look at a program to see. So you can search by keywords. So I'm just going to search by keywords. So if I look at this Doctor of Philosophy in Applied Animal Biology, this is just an example. You can look at any program. But you can see here there's lots of information about the program. And here there'll be a tuition and financial support section. And here you will see details about the application fee, about the tuition. But below that, you will see information about program funding packages. But here you will see average funding. So this is based on previous PhD funding. And you can see the average funding for the 9 students within this program that were included was $34,352 per year. Okay. And you can also see how the funding was comprised. So sometimes for funding, you'll need to do things like you might need to be a teaching assistant or a research assistant. But what they will do is put together a funding package for you. And you can see examples of average funding for each program on the website. Okay. Now, that is for PhD programs. At the master's level, it's different. So if you're applying to a course-based program, there is less chance of getting funding. There may be some scholarships they might be able to offer you, but generally course-based programs do not have funding in the same way as research-based programs. Research is given funding from government, from industry. If you're applying to a research-based master's, though, you can again just search by keyword, or you can search by degree level, and just find a program and see what sort of funding they would offer. I'm just going to say, I think this is a research-focused program. And again, I'm just looking at this one. This program, by the way, is atmospheric science. Let's see tuition and you can see here, there's a breakdown. They don't give an exact number here. Oh, sorry, here we are. Program funding. So master's fund students are guaranteed a minimum funding salary of $25,000 per year for the first 2 years. So you can see that's the example for this program. So you need to do that research and find it for your program. But certainly there's some really great awards and scholarships available at UBC. The specific amounts depend on the program. You can see information on our website, but also as you move through the application and connect with the program, they can probably give you more information. Finally, once they make you an offer of admission, they will give you the funding amount on the offer of admission. So you'll be able to make that decision based on the amount of money you know that you'll receive for your studies. I talked a lot there, but does that help? I hope that helped answer the question.
I think that was incredibly helpful, Shane, and I think you really made a distinction with PhD and master's programs, the specific focus on research. I mean, if you guys have questions and you want to sort of, on this topic, please raise your hand and then you could speak. In the meanwhile, there's another question around a student asking if they want to pursue a master's in a different field from what they have pursued at the undergraduate level. And I just want to mention here and put in context that Ahmedabad University has a highly interdisciplinary curriculum, and our students get broadly exposed. They attain depth as well as breadth. So your thoughts about shifting from the kind of focus they've had at the undergrad level to a different focus at the master's level?
Yeah, that's a really great question. The good news is that many people switch fields when they move into a master's degree. So it's not uncommon for that to happen. Some programs are more open to people from different fields than others. So the one that comes to mind for me is forestry. So right now we have a really great forestry department, forestry faculty at UBC, and they actually actively encourage people from a wide variety of different backgrounds to join their programs. So engineering, sciences, even arts, they take people from a variety of programs. So it is okay to switch fields. The best thing to do is really to understand the program and to reach out to them directly, just to make sure that they will consider your application, or they may well have information about this on their website as well. The one thing I would say as well is if you're applying from a different field, maybe you're moving from engineering into forestry or whatever it is, what you need to do is to really think about what experiences you've had and what skills you've developed that would be applicable in a new field. So there will likely be, skills that you've developed during your degree, research skills, maybe technical skills, maybe you've done some extracurricular activities, anything that you've done that has helped you to learn, that has helped you to develop skills that you'll be able to bring to the program, that you'll be able to use. Those would be things that I would highlight. The other things that I would highlight in your application as well is why. So if somebody's switching from one field to another, what the admissions committee will really want to know is, why are they doing this? Like, what is their reason from going from, engineering to forestry? Why are they making that switch? So just make sure that you're really clear in your statement of interest, really clear in the interview, if you have an interview, exactly why you want to make that switch. What are your motivations? What skills and experience do you bring? And why do you want to study that particular graduate program? So that would be my advice on applying to a different field.
There's another question on financial aid, which is really interesting. So the student, Manushi, asks whether there is any loan that the university has, does the university have a collaboration with Canadian banks where the students of UBC, internationals in this case, can benefit from low interest rates without a collateral? So, India has extensive coverage of student loans for international studies. And for over a decade, students have been benefiting, almost 2 decades have been benefiting from the same. Is there some way through which students can get low interest loans, being internationals?
Yeah, as far as I know, there is not. Unfortunately, there is not I don't think there's a UBC wide program where students can get loans from Canadian or Indian banks, as far as I know. The only exception that I can think of is, I think, at the business school. So at UBC, we have a business school which is called the Sauder School of Business. They may have some relationships with certain banks. I know they used to have a relationship with a couple of banks whereby newcomers to Canada could obtain loans or credit from those institutions, but generally we do not provide that service. I would say that the longer you are in Canada, for example, if you were doing a master's or if you're doing a PhD program, the longer you're in Canada, after a year or two, you would build up a credit record in Canada, so you could then apply for loans and credit. But that would not be the case straight away. Like, that wouldn't be possible. I think it is possible to get a credit card and things like that at the beginning, but even then, sometimes banks would ask for a small deposit if you to have a credit card. So that's the situation. Just a resource though, while we talk about finances, a resource that I would recommend is, if you look in our prospective students section, tuition fees and the cost of living, and actually here, where is it? Let me find it. This is our cost of living calculator. So as part of your research, let me see if I can just put this in the chat. Yeah, as part of your research, as part of your planning, you need to do financial planning. So it sounds like some of you are doing that already, which is excellent. But what you can do on our cost of living calculator is actually put in some details about yourself. You can say international student. You could pick your program of interest. Let's say you want to do the finance. You can even say, you know, will you bring a partner with you? You live on your own? Do you have children? Would you be happy to live in shared accommodation or not? Do you plan to live on UBC residence? Do you plan to own a car? These are just the main expenditures that you would expect at grad school, and you can do a quick calculation. You see here it comes up with the pop-up that says these are estimates, and I should stress, like, we try and make sure these estimates are as accurate as possible, but they are still estimates. But it's a great way for you to start your financial plan and to give you an idea of what that would look like. So you can see here, it would just give you a breakdown of things like establishment costs, like setting up your apartment, health insurance. Your tuition amount is plugged in based on the program that you selected. And you can see here, you know, your rent. Also, you can see here, it plugs in the income that you would expect. So you could expect things like the minimum funding is added in there, or we also have an international tuition award that you'd be eligible for as well. And there'd be other things that you can add in, but you can add in things here. So for example, maybe you have, you know, some savings here that you can add in. Maybe there's a family contribution, like maybe your parents are able to support you in some ways. And you can just add in these numbers and it will give you kind of a breakdown of your total income and your overall total. So you want to make sure that, you know, you have the funding, and not only for the first year, but also for the long term. You know, if you're thinking about doing a 2-year program, particularly if you're thinking about doing a PhD, which could be 4 or 5 years or more, you really need to think about, like, what's your long-term plan. You know, you would be eligible to work part-time. You know, that's always an option, but it's not something that we really encourage, just because you're going to be so busy. You know, particularly if you're doing a PhD program, you know, that's going to be the equivalent of doing a full-time job. But do check out the cost of living calculator when you're doing your financial planning.
That's a really good resource. Thanks, Shane. Shubh has his hand up. So Shubh, why don't you unmute yourself and please ask your question?
Yeah, hello. Hope I'm audible. I
Yes.
wanted to ask if you could elaborate on the awards list section under merit-based financial aid, because I don't understand how to use it.
Sorry, can you just repeat the question, please?
There is this link on merit-based financial aid section in all of the programs.
Yeah.
And the link says awards list.
Okay, yeah, that's great. So we have, actually, this is a great page for you to check out. This is a page I'll put into the chat as well. So this, on our website, we have a scholarships, awards, and funding section here. And here it will break down the types of funding that we have, and also some details about the sources of funding. And we also have advice on applying for awards. Okay, so I think you've mentioned the merit-based funding. So what we have on our website is awards opportunities, and this is a place where you can search for external, internal and external awards opportunities that you can look at. So if we look at let's say international students at the master's level, you can do a filter and it'll give you a list of possible scholarships and awards that you can apply to. Many of these are very specific to, you know, certain groups, so you would not be applicable to all of them, but certainly you could go down and see descriptions of some of the external awards that you could apply to. Okay, so that's, you know, we can't help you apply to external awards, but you can do that research and potentially apply for awards even before you have an offer of admission from a university. You know, if you have a really great research idea, or if there's something you're applying to, you can actually apply for some awards before you apply to a university. Also, just on the, obviously, I should explain as well, like, more of these awards will be for research-based programs. Okay, so awards funding, it's weighted towards research, and that's just the reality of the situation. You know, so you just bear that in mind. You know, and if you're applying to that research-based program, you know, particularly if you're working with a program, if you're working with a supervisor, they might say to you, hey, as well as applying to our program, can you also apply to this award? Or they may say, if we make you an offer of admission, we also want you to apply to this award. We want to include you in this award. So a supervisor will actually also give you a little bit of guidance on funding as well. They may say, okay, we can give you this much funding. We can give you 25,000 Canadian dollars per year. That's the funding that we can provide. However, we also know of these 2 or 3 other external funding bodies that you could apply to independently, and we encourage you to do that. So that's how the funding works. When you become a graduate student at UBC, we also have workshops and sessions on applying for funding. So that's something that happens as well once you start grad school. The department will help you, but also we can help you apply to external awards. And if I may just give you one more tip on funding is on our info sessions page. So I mentioned this already, we have lots of events coming up, and we actually have an event. If I scroll down here, we have this event here. So on Tuesday, 10th of October, this will be quite late at night for you, but we have funding opportunities for PhD and research focused master's programs. And that's where we're actually going to have an hour just talking about funding. It's with Professor Julian Dierkes, who's the Senior Associate Dean of Students at UBC. So that could be a really good one. Late at night, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what time that would be. 10 a.m. in Vancouver would probably be pretty late for you. But if you can join that one, that would be great. Also, what we do as well is we, for most of our programs, we also have, most of these sessions, we also have them on LinkedIn. So you can watch the LinkedIn recording afterwards. I'm not sure if we will record the session. I'm not sure at the moment if we're going to record it, but we may do, and it may be on LinkedIn afterwards. But do try and register and join that session if you can.
Vancouver time kya hota hai? Just check.
Yeah. Okay. So, but I hope that helped.
Shane, just a quick question. I mean, you talked about, well, and that's very true to all of universities all over the world, that masters that are taught master's programs with coursework are not generally funded. It's only, programs that involve research, especially at the PhD level, that are funded globally. So I think what you mentioned is very true to universities across the world. But I mean, when people apply to UBC for a PhD, is it guaranteed that they will be admitted with an offer of funding, whether the students are expected to do GA, RA, or TA work? Is it expected that they will automatically get funding, or it's not necessarily that they will get funding if they're admitted to a PhD program?
Oh no, so we have we have guaranteed funding. So if you are admitted to a PhD program at UBC, the minimum guaranteed funding amount that we will provide for each year of the first 4 years is 22,000 Canadian dollars. So that amount is the absolute minimum, and it's guaranteed. The average amount is higher than that, so you should expect more than that. When I say things like $22,000 or $30,000, that might sound like a lot of money, okay? But I can assure you that in Vancouver, in Toronto, in London, in the UK, in New York, wherever, these cities, even smaller cities like Calgary in Canada and places like that, this would be, a good amount of money in some countries, but you will still have to live, a pretty, basic life. You will not be able to come to Vancouver and live in your own apartment unless you have a lot of funds. So what we recommend is that you just understand and manage your expectations. So many PhD students and master students, they live in shared accommodation. They might have 2 or 3 roommates that they share an apartment or a small house with. You will not be going out for dinner every night. You will not be doing these things. So you can live a good life. But just to manage those expectations, like the idea of doing a lot of activities outside of your PhD, you have enough money to get by. you'll have enough money to get by. But if you won't have lots of money. But it's an investment, isn't it, in yourself? So obviously, you know, once you get that master's, once you get that PhD, it should lead you on to a good career. But you know, although we provide funding, it is just really a minimum amount for you to get by on.
Thanks, Jane, for giving that clarity. But yes, the prize is the research work, the prize is the academic rigor, and the access to world-class researchers and professors at UBC. It's obviously not an exercise to be living a luxurious life. So I'm so glad that you put that forward. I think we have a very interesting question coming in from another student, and I think that'll be probably the last question for the day. But I wanted to quickly ask you to show us, how do you contact a professor? Show the students here. How do you contact a professor? How do you research? How do you approach them? What's the appropriate process to do that, such that professors are actually reading their emails and taking them seriously?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for reminding me of that. Okay, so the best place to start is obviously prospective student section. And if you go to our research supervisors page, I'll just copy this link and put it into the chat. So you can follow along here if you want. So research supervisors page, actually there's some good videos here to watch on how to do this. Check out the videos, they're really helpful. But what you'll find here is a supervisor directory, and you can search by keyword. So I'm just going to put in biology, but you can obviously put in a couple of different keywords. And what you will do then, it will give you a list. Once you put in that keyword, it'll give you a list of supervisors. This is a very long list, okay? And many of these people will not be applicable to you, but it's a good starting point for you to do your search. On the right-hand side, you can drill down. So you can look in more detail at which professors are recruiting doctoral students, which ones are recruiting postdoctoral fellows or master's students. So let's look at master's students, and that will give me another list here. So these are people these faculty members in the field of, broadly speaking, in the field of biology, who are recruiting graduate students right now. And if I look at this, let's just pick one here. This is one here. So you'll see more information about the professor. You can see their research interests here. You can see which programs they're involved with. So this is where the programs in which they supervise candidates. You can see their research affiliations and centers, even sometimes videos. And here you can see, like, are they recruiting? So right now, this professor is looking to recruit master's, doctoral, and postdoctoral fellowships. And there's more information here. You can even see their publications here. Now, these pages are maintained by faculty members. So some faculty members are really good at this. Professor Angert here is good. They've given lots of information. You will go to some professors' pages and it won't be as much. It'll be very minimal, but you should be able to find things like links through to their Google Scholar profile. And there you will see more information about their most cited papers. You know, and through your university library, hopefully you'll be able to get access to some of these. And what you need to do is you need to read them. You don't need to read all of their papers, but you know what? Professor Angert has done some pretty important research here on evolution and ecology of species range limits. This has been cited almost 2,000 times. So if you're interested in working with Professor Angert, you better read this paper and maybe read a couple of her other papers and understand and just make sure, is this professor doing research in the area that I'm interested in? And if they are,
maybe maybe they can read the papers that are most cited, right? At least, like, you know, like, how do you recommend like a strategy for a professor like Professor Angert, you know, who's published so prolifically? How do you go about reading X number of papers? Or, I mean, maybe students can focus on whatever synergies they have in their research work with a prospective professor. Focus on those papers first, and perhaps focus on papers also that have had the highest citations. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, totally agree. That's really great advice. I think looking for synergies, if you see papers that like really synergize with your ideas and your research, you know, that's great to read. That's going to get you excited. Like if you read a paper and it's on the topic that you're interested in and you can see synergies, that's really exciting. I think the most cited papers, you know, have a look at those. Also look at recent papers. So like Professor Angert did this paper, but it's in 2009. But what is she doing in 2022, 2023? So you might want to just see like, where is she now with her research? It might be in a different place than it was, 5-10 years ago. For most papers, if you can gain access to them, you'll see like an abstract. So, we're not saying that you delve in and read, 10 academic papers here, but certainly, read the abstracts, which ones speak to you, which ones are the most cited, which ones are the most relevant. And then when you see those abstracts, those are the ones that you want to dive in deeper to and just take a deeper read into them. And, that's really the best way. The other way is, looking at the profiles on the department's website. So if we click through to Professor Angert's Department of Botany profile, you can see more information here. Research interests in more detail. You can see the people she works with, selected publications. So these are publications that she has chosen. So they might be things for you to look at. Yeah, lots of great information. And this is different. So some faculty members are going to have lots of information on the web. Others are going to have minimal information. You need to do that research and just find ones. But typically it's straightforward enough to find contact information for faculty members. You can normally find their email addresses relatively easy. The other option that you have for UBC is to actually fill out a supervisor inquiry form. And what this does is you can provide a set of information here, and you can just write a little bit about your research background, why you want to work with that professor. So this is in lieu of an email. So this is another option that you have. And we developed this supervisor form based on feedback from faculty members. This is the information that they want to hear about when you email them. So you can actually either choose to complete the supervisor form if you wish, or you can reach out to them directly by email. Either way is okay. What happens is they both arrive in their email inbox. So if you do a supervisor inquiry email, it will arrive in their email inbox the same way as an email. So yeah, there's two options there. For me, I tend, if I was giving advice more generally, I tend to go with the email. The supervisor form is great, but I feel like the email gives you more flexibility, particularly in following up. So, for example, it's not good to kind of keep emailing the faculty member every week. It's not a good idea. You should really do your research, select a small number of faculty members, write unique and individual emails to each one that you want to reach out to. Short, succinct emails, 2 or 3 paragraphs. If they get back to you, great. Then you can follow up with more information, your CV, your statement of interest if you've written it. Even your transcript, you could send their transcripts to them so they know what you're about and what modules you've taken or subjects you've taken. Also, the nice thing about emailing is that it's easier to follow up. So, for example, if you do email a faculty member and you haven't heard back after 2 weeks, say, then you could just do a reply all and bring that email back to the top of their inbox and say, very politely, I'm just looping back to this. I know you're busy, but would you have a moment just to reply to my email about supervision or something like that? So yeah, we don't recommend, following up multiple times, but certainly it's okay to follow up once for sure. Sometimes you will not hear back from supervisors. That happens a lot. It's not because you've done anything wrong. It might just be because they're really busy and they just don't have the time to get back to you. What I'd say is, develop your list of possible faculty members at UBC, but also other institutions, and just gradually work through that list. Reach out to them, see what advice you get, see what feedback you get, and work through the process. It can be time consuming. It can be stressful. It can be, I know you really want to find somebody, but you've just got to take your time and work through the process. Hundreds of students find supervisors by going through this directory every year. This is the way they do it. So it's a great tool to use. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Shane, that was really detailed, and I think that was a great masterclass in applying and finding a research PhD supervisor at UBC and in generals. But you have to get students, you have to work really hard and put together a great email, which is well informed. I shall not write to your supervisor without actually having read their work, right? So please keep that in mind. We should end with, I'm very mindful of your time as well, Shane. There's the last question. I thought it was a very good question. At the university, we have an integrated Masters of Life Sciences program. And
Mhm.
that's a 5-year program in life sciences, really solid. The career outcomes are excellent. Students of the graduating batch have also got into universities like Johns Hopkins. So there's a question by Kushi, who's in that program, enrolled in that program. She says, it was mentioned that we do not have to have work experience for a graduate program we want to apply for. What kind of work experience is required if you want to apply for an MBA in healthcare management, having a bachelor's degree in life sciences? I think maybe we can keep this as today's last question, but yeah, go for it.
Okay, so the students interested in an MBA in healthcare.
Yes.
Okay, but they're coming from that different field, yeah.
Life sciences. They're coming from life
sciences. Okay, great. It's difficult because we have so many different programs. It's really difficult for me to give you a very accurate answer for each program. Like I can't keep on top of all of the programs. But what I would say, typically from what I understand, for an MBA program, you will need sort of a minimum of 2 years of experience. And I would just have a look at that program to see exactly what type of experience they're looking at. They should explain that on their website. I'm just wondering if I can see the program even on our site. I can't find it.
So we do healthcare management and see if that's a program.
Yeah, let's try that.
Kushi, do you want to speak up and tell us if you are referring to a program at UBC or that is more of a general question that you had?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Actually, I was looking for master's in business administration and healthcare management only in UBC. It was, I guess, executive program. I don't remember it much, but I guess it's executive.
No,
and
sorry,
health.
sorry to interrupt, but I mean, Shane, if you go down, if you scroll down, no, not up, down, I could see it. Masters of Health Administration, MHA. It's not an MBA, but that's an MHA program. At least I could see that. Maybe there are more.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, so let's have a quick look here, see if we can see that information. Actually, they have some info sessions coming up, so you could check out those. So I'm just looking here. Like I don't know exactly what they're looking for. Yeah, I can't see anything about work experience here. What I would recommend, yeah, I mean, this is a program for, for managers and researchers. So any experiences that you have in that space would be good. I think this particular version of the program that we're looking at is actually sort of a weekend program. So it's done by people who are already working full time in Vancouver. So I don't know if that is exactly the right program for you. If I can just try and take a step back and just answer it more generally, just strongly recommend finding the program that you're interested in on our website. So there's obviously our graduate degree programs page that we've talked about a lot today, but for each program on here, there will also be a program website that you can click through to. So I would just look at, the program website as well as the page on grad.ubc.ca and look at and you should be able to see all of the information required. If it's still unclear to you around the work experience requirement for the program you're interested in, or the type of experience that you need to ask specific questions on particular programs.
Thank you so much, Shane. Thank you so much, Shane, for being here today and taking our students very thoroughly through various graduate options at the University of British Columbia. We look forward to continuing to work with your university and thank all the wonderful students who came in today. Thanks a lot, Shane.
Thanks, everyone. It's great to be here. Have a good evening. Bye for now.
Bye, Shane.